Hello, welcome to episode 8 of the series on Introduction to Programming. In this video, we are going to continue to cover loops. Specifically, we are going to look at do-while loops. Previously, we looked at while loops and how they allow you to easily repeat sections of code. Do-while loops are similar, but they have a key difference, and that difference is they allow you to run the code once, regardless of that condition that we set up. And in doing so, they can be useful in some situations, particularly where tasks may or may not need to be repeated. Some examples would be retry operations, reading input, or dealing with pagination queries. And again, if none of that made sense to you, don't worry. We will look at some of those things in the future, but for now, just think of it as a type of loop that is a little bit different, but let's see what we can do with it. So first things first, what we're going to take a look at is set up some code here. So let's just say we have a couple conditions here. We can say x equals start. Now we get into the fun new type of code. So do whiles start with the keyword do. That's this word right here. And we will put some brackets around what we would like to repeat. And then we do a while. So one of the things we are doing here is setting it up so that you can spit out a value, then check the condition. And we're going to do a little bit of math inside of our loop. And so what we're going to see here is that it'll evaluate the code once. It'll increase x from the 0 value to 1. It'll check is x less than exit, or in this case, is 1 less than 1, which is false, and it will continue on. So if I run this code, it'll spit out a single x. If I make my exit condition 2, for example, it'll spit out 2 of them. If I say my exit condition is 3, it'll spit out 3 of them. Now, the thing about do while loops is they always run this body content here before checking this condition. And so if I set it to 0, it will still run it once. It just will get to the end of here and say, oh, hey, this condition's false. I'm not going to repeat this anymore, and I'm going to exit out. Comparing that with, say, a while loop, where x is less than exit, and we can copy and paste this section of code. Let's change this from x to a y. So if I run this, you'll see that it only prints out an x. If I raise the exit to, say, 2, for example, you'll see that they both run twice. And so this is where you can kind of see the difference between the two of them. In the do while case, it'll always run once no matter what. In the while case, it'll only run the number of times we tell it to, or the number of times the condition remains true. And so this is a different type of looping mechanism. They are similar in behavior. It's not as common to do a do while because this idea of I want to do something then check a condition is kind of an unusual way of thinking about a problem. For example, you know, say I have users instead of the word exit, right? Right. If I want to do things for 2 users, right, I'm going to do each of these twice. That makes sense. If I want to do it once for each user, I do it once for each user. And if I have no users in my system, well, I'm still going to do this first one once. And it's kind of a weird, why would you want to do something when you have nothing, right? And so because of this concept, do while loops are seen in less common situations when you're dealing with JavaScript code. If you're dealing with certain constructs in other languages, you might use do whiles more often, but in JavaScript or web development in general, do while is an actual unusual type of loop. But you can write the equivalent even as a while loop. For example, one of the things I can do is I could put this document right here. And again, if I run this in the case of 0, it will do the same thing. Now, it is slightly different because again, if I run here, you'll see that the second loop does run twice. So what you end up having to do is you also have to copy the contents or the place that does the increment outside. And that way they actually run the same way. Right? So you can see how these two are roughly equivalent. It's just we've basically taken this do block and kind of moved it outside so it runs once and then it just does a normal while loop. In some cases, this might be clearer to do it where you have it set up conditions, set up variables beforehand, and then perform a looping operation. But you may occasionally encounter somebody who sets it up as a do while loop. In either case, you are using a looping structure. It is a type of branching that you would perform. Specifically, a do while is known as a post-test loop. And the reason why it's a post-test is because after the contents or post-content, you are then performing a test. And if the test is true, you repeat it. If the test is false, you skip it and carry on. So in general, loops are very useful for allowing us to do different types of control flow where we basically either skip sections of code or repeat them until we satisfy a condition. And we will continue to explore more types of these in future videos. So have a good day.